I observed behaviors, wrote behavioral interventions to increase wanted behaviors and decrease, unwanted behaviors, and I evaluated children, and that's what I did. And then I became a mom. And when my first daughter started to exhibit symptoms of autism, I noticed around, she was probably she was about 12 months old. When I thought, that something might be different is when I was like, you know what, I'm probably never gonna get back to work. So I gave that up, and through the years, I decided that it was best to stay at home with my kids, especially when my second child came, and then my third child came, and I have 2 kids with an IEP and 1 kid with a 504. I only have 3 kids. So I have plenty of experience with the things that I'll be talking about tonight. I get lots of opportunities to practice this stuff. So first off, my oldest child, who is she's not 9, jumping the age gap here, she's 8. And when she was 7, she was diagnosed with a severe anxiety disorder. We tested her for autism. It was like the 3rd time I tested her, or we had her tested. And she was always really the borderline, right under the needs more testing. And so they tested her for the autism in the school systems, and it came back that she had severe anxiety disorder and aggression disorder, and she was ADD. So all of these combined, when she becomes really anxious, then she becomes very aggressive and things like that. So that's hers. Those are her issues. She has received amazing intervention at the school systems. I decided to help her by medicating her. So she takes medication to help her with her anxiety and with her ADD. And it took us a lot of time in adjusting medications and finding different medications, but I was medicated since I was 10 for major depressive disorder. So for me, it wasn't, here's my husband. For me, it wasn't a big deal. Medication was never, ever a negative thing in my home. So I immediately sought a psychiatrist to help with my daughter. But if you're looking into any type of mental therapy, help, you have to treat it like you would a teacher. Some teachers just aren't right for your kid. And some teachers are great with your kid. And if you feel that you've found someone who works really well with your kids, stick with it. But if you feel, I'm not sure this person's gonna work for me, go somewhere else. Because what you need is to find someone who can help you cater to your child's anxiety and be able to give you the program that you both feel comfortable with. So my middle child has ADD. Have any of you guys seen Finding Dory or Finding Nemo? Dory is my daughter. In the first scene, she's talking to her parents, and everything's great, this is great. And they're like, okay, we're gonna go away. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna count to 3, 1, 2, oh, sand! And everything's gone. And my sister and I, who were in the theater, and we had all of our minions between us, we look over at each other at the same time, and we're both pointing to my daughter and laughing, because it is her. She cannot focus. I can't, when I reprimand her for something, by the time I'm done, she can't remember what she did. And I wish I was joking, but I'm really not. And then my youngest child, who's 4, is autistic. So, and he's very high functioning, but he has a lot of communication delays. So when I try to talk to him about what he's feeling, he becomes really confused, and he just screams the same thing over and over at me, and no, we're not going to talk about this. And I'm like, okay, I give up. You just need to calm down. And so there's a lot of issues there with communicating with him. So, and he does get, he doesn't really exhibit many symptoms of anxiety. My middle daughter, however, does exhibit symptoms of anxiety and also major symptoms of depression. And so does my eldest daughter. And I'm starting to see the little signs in them where they're sitting there, and I can see it in their persona, where they're just, I don't know, they have this look, this glazed over look in their eye, and I go over and I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, I don't know. This is my oldest daughter. And I'm like, well, what are you feeling? She's like, I feel disconnected. I was like, okay. And then I was like, and she's like, and I'm like, okay, disconnected from what? Like, do you want to interact with people? She's like, no, I feel despondent. So this is my oldest kid, right? And I'm like, okay, honey. And so I'm like, let's focus on doing something that makes us happy. So, you know, I talk to my kids. So I do have a lot of experience with my own children with these issues. But it started way sooner than that, because when I grew up, I was given a very healthy foundation. My mother suffered from depression, and when she started to see the symptoms in me, she took me to a neurologist. And we worked through my neurologist and then a psychiatrist to help me. And I was put on medication for ADD and for depression. And then around my teenage years, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And so these things were very complicated to deal with. And so my mom, the best thing she did for me was she got me medicine, which has helped me a lot. I felt that it was the right move for me. So I used it and immediately felt the difference. And she also talked to me. We talked about my problems. She said, if I was having a bad day where I couldn't get out of bed, or I couldn't focus, or I was very anxious, making me aggressive or angry or tense or snapping at people, she would back off. She wouldn't take it personally, and she'd say, okay, so let's talk about what you're feeling, and let's talk about what we can do to help you move forward. Because my mother, suffering from depression, and her depression is fairly severe, she would go to work, she would come home, she would make dinner, she would help us with our homework, and she would clean the house. And one time, years later, I asked her, so you did all of this in the throes of severe depression? And she was like, well, no one else was going to do it, and I still have to live my life. So she taught me, through example, that you can't let your disability control who you are and what you do. And this is what I want to teach my kids. And so in our house, mental illness was never something that we couldn't talk about. And that helped me grow up feeling like I knew that there was something wrong in my brain, chemically, that my brain didn't make certain things that I needed to function properly. But I never felt like there was something wrong with me. I never felt that my mother ever thought that I was the problem or I was broken. I had a disability, I had to work within it, and that was it. So I could separate the issues I was having from who I am. And so it's so important to speak openly with our kids about their issues and their disabilities. And why, let me see here. So why would we not, I know that it is an issue for some parents to not discuss their child's emotional disorders with them. And so I ask, why not? What is it that is keeping a parent from discussing with their child what is wrong with them? Is it because they feel that their child isn't old enough to understand? And in that, I will say that when I would talk with my daughter, and she was younger, 6, and she was showing outbursts, and I would speak to her in the same way I speak to her now. And my best friend would say, she was like, when I first saw you doing that, I was thinking, okay, Ashley, that's going over her head. And she was like, but then amazingly, I saw differences in her, that she was getting parts of it. So I didn't talk down to her. I just took it to her level, and tried to explain to her what was happening. So I think that speaking openly with your children is important. If you don't think they can understand it, give them the chance, because they'll surprise you. But also, there's social issues. There are lots of people out there who want to tell you how to parent your kid. There are lots of well-meaning family members that say, well, if you would just do it this way, if you would just do it that way, if you were more firm, if you were more this, then you wouldn't be having these problems. Or a lot of times parents encounter family members who don't agree with a diagnosis, and you get pushback there. So when that happens, you have to make sure that you rely on the professional's opinion. Because while your family and friends, I'm sure, are well-meaning, they do not have the degrees that the professional has that is helping your child. So rely on that information and say, sometimes there are two different approaches. You can say that to your family, well, the professionals have told me this and I'm going to go with what the professionals say. Or my sister likes to take the approach of, okay, I'll think about that, and then moves on. So there are two different ways to handle that type of combat against emotional behaviors. So when in those times, so my first question is, why don't you feel like you can talk? What stops you from talking? Is it someone else? Is it the culture? Is it the fear of the understanding? But here's another question. What would you be willing to sacrifice or do if you could heal your kid? What would you be willing to give up if you could make them whole? Anything. I'd give anything. So the next question is, how we'll take the answer to that question and apply it to this one. What are you willing to do to give your child the best outcome possible? Then the answer should be anything. And so this is, in the course of this talk, I will address how we can get to the point of doing whatever it takes and being open with our kids. I'll cover what anxiety looks like and feels like from my own experiences and from interviews I've done with some of my friends who also suffer from anxiety, coping strategies for you and for your kids. But first, I want to address something that I think is really important, and is probably, my husband told me, I gave this talk to my husband last night, and he was like, okay, honey, it's time to dial it down a little bit. Because I am fairly passionate about this, about speaking with our children and informing them and educating them. And so if I come across as a little harsh, I'm sorry. There is no judgment happening. This is just my own opinion. But when we are secretive about what our children are suffering from, secrets breed shame. And so one of the more important topics is this. Okay, I've already covered that. Apparently I'm talking ahead of myself. So now that we've passed the disclaimer, your child will know something isn't right. My kid knows she's different. She understands. I can't deal with stresses the same way so-and-so can. I can't understand this. Why am I always feeling like this? Your child knows. And if they don't, kids in school are certainly going to tell them, because they behave differently, and that creates a lot of opportunities for bullying. And so you have to prepare your child by giving them the foundation that they need to be able to succeed. And if you've already established this foundation for them and they feel comfortable, then those incidences will be less traumatic. And I know this from my own personal experiences in school. So if they have a solid foundation, then all right, so we're providing them with the tools to become independent. If we don't do this, if we leave it blank, they're going to create something in their mind. I don't know what my parents aren't telling me. I know something's wrong. So I'm going to fill in this blank with whatever I think is wrong with me. And if you think about any time that you're filling in the blank, your mind goes way off course sometimes. You think worst case scenario, something is really bad going to happen, and then when you hear it, you're like, okay, well, that wasn't so bad. And so you have to make sure that they know, so they're not filling in the blanks for themselves. And So this, if they are having to do that, it only increases the problem behaviors. So emotional associations of shame, and that is inadequacy, unworthiness, dishonor. They feel as if they are dishonoring their family, and that's a heavy burden to feel for a kid. So it can be, sometimes we can confuse it with guilt. Guilt and shame, they're not the same thing. Guilt comes from having done something wrong. It's an action you've done. And when you do something that makes you feel guilty, you seek out someone. I'm sorry, I did this, I didn't mean to, and can you forgive me? And so they separate the action, the bad behavior, from them. This was the action, but I'm still good because I said I was sorry. Shame, we don't seek out help. We keep it quiet. And it always reflects on the self. They are unable to separate the bad behavior from the bad self. So then they internalize that. And they hide it. So this is probably one of the more damaging things that can do, because children who grow up feeling this are very adept at emotional manipulation. They usually bully, put others down. They can be aggressive towards others because they can't control the own shame that they feel. So they are going to put that on someone else, and that gives them more control. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen every time, but it is there's a lot of clinically proven stuff that talks about the effects of that on children. So anyway, but I think the most important thing with shame is it lacks the ability to teach empathy. And we need empathy to have successful relationships. And so if they're constantly thinking, something's wrong with me, and I can't share what I'm feeling because I'm bad. These are bad. We don't talk about it. So then they're always thinking about how they're broken, they're wrong, but they can't talk about it because they don't feel comfortable because the environment hasn't been set up for that in their home. And that, in turn, doesn't teach them to think of others. And it doesn't help them to see that the way that their behaviors are affecting others. So, and they can't learn if this is happening. So parents get stuck in the same shame cycle. I never wear heels, and these things are making my toes go to sleep. I'm sorry, I'm short, and my pants are dragging the ground. All right, so parents get stuck in this shame world, right? Our society judges us based on how our children behave. How our children behave must be what we're doing. I'm gonna tell you, my daughter is a 17-year-old in an 8-year-old's body, and I am not gonna tell her a thing that she isn't gonna do. I mean, if she wants to do it, she's gonna do it. If she doesn't, I could drag her over hot coals, it's not gonna make a difference. Am I right? My husband's nodding his head. So they tell us that children will represent our best efforts and best merits of parenting. This is not the case, okay? So when our children fall short of their goals, and when they do embarrassing or inappropriate or odd behaviors in public, that reflects badly on us, and we feel shame. Because we think, oh my gosh, my kid, everyone's gonna be judging me, because that's what people think. So you guys are also victims of this. The negative thing about this is that sometimes we can, in an effort to protect ourselves, we don't discuss it. We hide the disability. We stick our head in the ground, ostriches. I'm not gonna talk about it because it makes me uncomfortable, because I don't wanna feel this shame, because I don't wanna talk about how I feel ashamed. And so when that happens, you're not getting rid of that shame, it just moves it to the kid. Because your inability to talk about it then makes them feel that way. So it's a cycle. So how do we avoid it? How do you defeat this? How do you overcome this? With perspective. You have to teach your children perspective. Because how do we develop our children to have a healthy perspective, especially when we as parents are feeling incredibly overwhelmed and frustrated and frazzled and helpless, when sometimes our children's behaviors are something that we don't understand or understand how to control because it's built out of irrationality. Anxiety doesn't have an anxiety disorder doesn't really have a rational basis. Nothing can be happening. And my husband comes home and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "I'm just really anxious right now. I just feel really anxious." He's like, "Why?" And I was like, "I have no clue. I have no clue. It's just happening." And sometimes our children go through that and they don't have the adult perspective. And so that's more scary for them. So it's like when you first you have to take care of you. It's like putting the oxygen mask on yourself first and then assisting your child, because if you can't breathe, then you're not going to be able to help anybody else. So one of the things, and these are very simple things, but sometimes hearing something simple helps you go, okay, well, this is something I need to work on. But you have to find a way to vent your own emotions. I talk to my husband a lot. So if you have a spouse or a friend or someone in a support group, a therapist, you have to find a way to vent your emotions about the situation with your child's special needs. And when you do that, it helps you gain perspective on exactly what is driving your emotion. I feel helpless because I don't understand what's going on with my child or how to help them. And then when you're talking about it with someone else, it's really important to have a sounding board, because there is a psychological effect when you say something out loud and you hear it come out. You're like, oh, and you think of it differently. So sometimes it is necessary to talk out loud about it with other people. I use my husband because he's there and I love him. So I tell him what I need. And I ask him what he needs. What do you need to help you cope? And I say, this is what I need to help me cope. I need to get away. I got to have some time to myself. On Mother's Day, he's like, what do you want? I was like, I want to be left alone. And I was like, I want you to take the children and go away. And he was like, on the day of celebrating your motherhood, you want to be alone? Yes. All by myself. So, you can, like I said, talk to a friend. You talk to another mother or a father who is experiencing the same thing you are, because they can understand. The thing about the social pressures to not talk about your child's disability comes from the fact that they don't know what you're going through. They don't live in your house, they don't experience it, and it stinks. Some days are just hard. And it's difficult for someone else to understand unless they're in that situation or they've been trained to deal with that situation. So speaking to others about your child or grandchild or whomever's emotional disorders is paramount to you understanding how you are dealing with it. So you never know when someone is going to say something to you that is going to help with whatever you're coping with. I mean, there have been many times where I've been bouncing information off my best friend who has been around my daughter since she was an infant and in our house every week. She even moved from Alabama to Texas with us. So I will bounce information off of her, and she is a teacher, so she knows about helping children. And she often has really great insight. Just try it this way. She also knows my daughter. So it's important to get someone's help and perspective who understands. And you can I realize that some people are really private people. I get that. You don't like to share what's happening in your emotional life. You're just not a sharer. I understand that. All right, so I met a person, and she's very, very private. She is not a sharer. She has a young autistic son. He's about 2. And I could see the stress and anxiety like a physical weight on her shoulders. And if you want to imagine a cat who is creeping along outside and they're looking at something, all of a sudden this dog comes out and barks at him. And think about the cat's reaction And that's her pretty much all the time. I'm like, we got to calm down, you know, because she's on edge. She doesn't have anybody to talk to. No one is understanding her. I mean, her husband is a good man, but he isn't, because sometimes our spouses don't understand. So you still need to find someone to speak to. So my personality, being what it is, I'm not aggressive. What would you say I am, honey? How would you describe my personality?
Persistent.
Yeah, yes, that's a great one. I am persistent, if nothing else. And so I gently pushed. She came over to my house and I would just mention things and I would talk about my own children and my own struggles and experiences, and I would manipulate the conversation to go where I wanted it to go so she would talk to me. And she did. And she opened up. And then it was like this river of emotion that she had been keeping in. And she cried, and over multiple times we spoke about this, and I encouraged her to get help. Please see a doctor, talk to someone. And because I'm persistent, she did, because I didn't stop annoying her about it. I was like, so did you talk to a doctor? So did you talk to a doctor? Because I can be charmingly persistent. But she did. She did. And they decided for them that she would go on an anxiety medication to help her cope with this part of her life and the anxiety and the depression that she's feeling from it. And after having been on the medication, she came over to my house, and I wrote down what she said because I thought it was cool. She said, I can't believe how much better I feel. I didn't even realize how bad it had become because it happened so slowly. And she felt normal. Discussing her emotional struggles after that were much easier. So the maintenance of continuing to talk about your struggles, because it's not like a one-time thing and then everything is gone. No, different struggles. As your children grow, their needs change, their struggles change. So you still need to find someone to talk to. But now that she has that, she is more focused on helping her child in his therapy. Whereas she was avoiding it and she didn't want to do it. I don't want to take him to therapy. I just don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with this. This is overwhelming. And now it's not. And so she sought help, and they decided what was good for her, and it's working. And so each of us will handle our stress differently. We'll handle the outcome of our stress differently and the way we need to express it. So you have to do a whole lot of thinking about what it is you need. How do I need to talk about this? And so taking time to engage in something you enjoy can also help you. I like time alone. I want to be in my office on Pinterest, not thinking about anything, just let my mind go blank. I want to be in my shop because I do carpentry, and I want to have my earplugs on so I can hear no children screaming, and the loud noises from the machines are wonderful. And so I go out and I build something, I make something. So I am a creator. I quilt, I cook, I bake. I have a whole lot of hobbies because I need a lot of outlets. I need at least 3 for each child. So you need to I would encourage you to find something that helps you cope in a way that makes you feel successful. If you find something you love and enjoy that you have control over being successful in, do it. I love to read. I want to read this book series, but then there's the whole finding the time, but we'll get to that. I want to learn to cook better, or I'm good at these things, and so I need to take time I used to sew, I used to knit, I used to whatever, and find the time to invest in that, because that will make you feel more successful, less helpless. It's an outlet. And so we need ways to also express our frustration and our anger in the moment. So your child is freaking out, and my friend comes in, and I have my headphones on. My headphones are my sanctuary. I put them on and my music comes on, and then I can't hear my child screaming because she can't get what she wants, and she's in the middle of a full-blown meltdown on the floor, and there isn't anything I can do about her, so you just have fun with that. And then my autistic son is talking to me about he needs this, he needs this, he needs this, and I can't get him to understand me, so I'm like, you need to calm down so then you can tell me what you need, while my other child is running around in circles, screaming at the top of her lungs, singing at the top of her lungs. And so I'm like, I just need it to be quiet. I need to stay in here to make sure you don't burn down the house, but I need it to be quiet. So I put my headphones on. When my best friend comes over for dinner, she's often like, oh, is it a bad day? If I have my headphones on, I'm like, oh, I know, I'm just listening to a book. You know, so that is how I find peace. When I'm in the moment and I can't get out of it. You have to find ways that you can cope. I have other friends that get on their phones and they play mindless games. And, you know, the kids are there and they're playing, they're like, but they're just letting their mind go blank, playing whatever game. If it's simple and you can do it, do it. Because sometimes you can't escape the moment and you can't do anything for your child at that point. So find your own way to cope. So that's really, really great. Another thing is when you pinpoint your ways of stress relief and your coping mechanisms, then you have built an ability to be able to help your child do the same thing. Also, this is another thing. If you have a spouse or if you have a partner or even someone that helps you with your child, you know, then what I suggest is that you team up with them. I tell my husband, what do you need to make sure you have time to be able to handle the children? And he's like, I need a night off to play my video games, because that's one of his stress relief. He's like, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to murder something, you know. So, and so he goes one night a week and plays his video games, and he doesn't have to sometimes I drag him out to put our son to bed because Liam doesn't want anybody but daddy. But he plays his video games. He doesn't have to deal with the kids. He feels like he has his own personal time. And that's important. Another way that my husband wants us, I want to be alone, my husband wants to be with me. So he's like, I just want to be with you without any children. And I'm like, okay. You know, so he's like, I want to go to a movie. I want to spend time with you. I want to go out to dinner with you. I just want to be with you. So his strength is being around other people. And since apparently he likes me, he wants to be around me. So that's one thing I forgot to mention earlier is work with your partner. Find out what they need and give it to them. They need to find out what you need and give it to you. Now, if your partner may be unwilling to sacrifice in the beginning, then go ahead and just do your part. Ask them what they need and give it to them, and don't expect anything in return, because you're like, okay, I'm going to serve my partner. Now, if you start to become bitter about it, then I would be like, okay, now we really need to talk about this because I would like something too. But sometimes they can realize how helpful that is. And then you can open up the discussion of, I would also like this help. So now we'll move back. Sorry, I had forgotten to mention that. So now that we've learned to help emotionally regulate ourselves, when our children need it, we can teach it to them. When my kids struggle with their anxiety and their depression, I can suggest something that they can do to cope because I've done it for myself. And I often will make suggestions to them in the moment. And so doing something for yourself is the number one thing. You have to do that first. And then the next thing is you need to listen to your children. Children haven't found an adequate way to express their emotions, then they're going to lash out or withdraw. They'll go one way or the other. And so you're going to see an increase in problem behavior if they are unable to express what they're feeling to you. And so we need to give them the opportunity to talk. First, it may be guided, like when you're first presenting this to your child and you say, you possibly help them, are you feeling upset or angry? I mean, as parents, and we observe a situation, we often can tell what emotion our child is feeling. And so we go in there and you can suggest it. Yes, I'm feeling that way. Okay. So then eventually your child will say, the other night my daughter, my 6-year-old, came to me and she was like, I'm just really frustrated right now. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, tell me about it. And she's like, well, this kid at school keeps asking me why I'm not coming over to his house. And she starts going into this, and she's like, and it's making me very anxious to go to school because he's constantly saying, why do you come over and play with me? And then I get home and I start painting and I forget. And then you forget, and then it's too late. And then she starts bawling. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's calm down. And so she came to me and told me, instead of acting out and being frustrated and angry with her siblings, she comes to me and says, I'm feeling very frustrated right now, and this is the reason I'm feeling frustrated. And I'm like, all right, well, this is what you can say to your friend at school, and then let's try and focus on something else other than what's making you frustrated and anxious. So I then give her options of things that she can do. So listening to your children, it's important to mirror what they say. Then listening is not a passive thing. It's active. Your child says, I am frustrated and angry. Okay, you feel frustrated and angry. Can you tell me why? Well, so-and-so did this or this happened. Okay, so you're frustrated and angry because of this. And so you are basically just saying what they've exactly said, which sounds really dumb, but it's incredibly effective. Because then they feel like you actually are listening to them. They're like, whoa, my parent gets me. And that changes you chemically. It releases chemicals in your body that make you feel listened to. I can't remember what it is, but yes, it does change you when you hear someone else tell you, I know what you're feeling. So all you have to do is repeat what they're saying. And then when you say that, you go, okay, well, I understand you're feeling this way, and you show them that you're listening, and then you can say, tell me how I can help. What can I do to help you feel less anxious, less angry? And then just wait a minute. And a lot of times I get, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, what are some things you do when you don't feel angry? Well, I do this. I go read a book. I go do this. I go do that. I'm like, well, do you want to do one of those? And a lot of this is, one disclaimer in here is, it takes time. And as parents, as a parent of 3 small children running a house, and I am always short on time. But you have to put aside what you're doing to help them in these beginning moments. And then eventually they will come to you, like my daughter does. And she's only 6. So the learning curve is really quick for kids. So I tell her, I'm like, well, how can I help you? And then I will give them suggestions if they need it. And then we go and do that thing. And then after they've calmed down, I'm like, okay, do you feel better? And they're like, yeah, I feel better. And I'm like, great, that's so awesome. I'm so glad you told me how you were feeling so that I could help you. And so then it moves on to, when I see them, all I have to do is say, hey, what's going on? And then when I say, hey, what's going on? It moves right into, this is what I'm feeling, and I just need to have this right now. Oh, okay. Well, and then it happens more quickly. So often some of the things that I suggest, if you need, is my kids like to do puzzles. They like to be read to. They like to paint. They like to have quiet time. And I'm like, okay, well, then let's go do one of these things. However, there is a catch in here, is that if your child is exhibiting aggressive behaviors, you have to be careful about what you give them. You don't want to reward or reinforce the aggressive behaviors. If I'm aggressive, then mom spends one-on-one time with me. You have to be careful. So if the behavior is aggressive, because my eldest has a lot of aggression. And so when she is exhibiting aggressive behaviors, I often say, okay, you need to go somewhere where you have time to cool off. Sorry, that's my friend. Is everything okay? Okay. Like I said, my kids have issues. When that happens and I tell her, okay, you really need to go somewhere quiet, a lot of times she fights me. She's not going to go anywhere, and I can't make her. And we have a standoff. And a lot of times I'm like, okay, this goes back to my behavioral days. I'm like, okay, what do you need to do? And then I wait. And she doesn't tell me. And I'm like, you need to try and go somewhere quiet to calm down. What do you need to do? And then I wait. And she doesn't say anything. I'm like, you need to go somewhere quiet and calm down. Can I help you go? And she just sits there. All right, well, I'm going to stand here for 5 more seconds, and I'm going to let you go on up on your own to your room or outside and calm down, or I am going to help you go there. And she's like, you know, she just fumes. And so I'm like, okay, I don't want to force you. I don't want to. I would love it if you would just go on your own, but if you can't, I will, because you need to calm down. Because she's in such a heightened state of aggression that she just isn't thinking clearly. So I pick her up and I take her to her room and I set her down and I'm very gentle with her. And I'm like, okay, honey, I just need you to calm down in here. And when you're calm, just come downstairs and we can talk about this. So you have to be careful what the behavior is and what intervention you suggest to your children, that you aren't reinforcing a negative behavior. So if they are anxious or if they're frustrated, that's a time where you're like, okay, if you're anxious or frustrated, I want to redirect that emotion into something positive. And that is when you want to offer to do fun things. Because you want to teach them that when they're anxious and when they're frustrated and when they're depressed, they can refocus that energy somewhere else, somewhere positive. When they're aggressive, they need to cool off. So this is generally what I do to my kids. This gives them a modicum of control. They feel, when I give her options, or when you give your children options, then they feel a little more control. And one of the worst and most debilitating things about anxiety is your lack of control. You don't control it. It just happens. And then you feel helpless. And a small child is having a very difficult time figuring this out. And so what they do is you are establishing, you have control over this. This is how you have control. I am going to give these decisions, I'm going to offer you these options and we'll do this together. So you're giving them some control. And these modes of, control, giving them options of control and listening to what they're talking about are very similar to the same interventions they're going to be receiving in the school systems. That's what they do with my daughter. They give my daughter options, they talk to her, she has cool down places, she has other activities she can go to help her with her anxiety. She has a safe spot that she can go to where no one can watch her, but she can still listen to the teacher. So she has options available to her that she can choose. And therefore, we're establishing you do have some control. So this provides a much needed consistency. When you're doing it in your home and the school system is doing it, then your child feels more stable because it's the same here and it's the same here. And you will see an emotional shift in your kid if the school is doing one thing and you're doing another. So what you have to do is make sure that you agree with the system or of intervention that the schools have put in place, and that you are also implementing something similar in your home. Because most emotional learning happens in your home. Children do not imitate their teachers unless they're playing school. They imitate their parents. They are going to be your mirror. I heard my daughter come in one time with her Barbies a couple years ago, and she was playing with the Barbies, and she goes, "Let's go do this." And her other Barbie says, "I'm sorry, I have to work right now." And I thought I had just been stabbed. So I put down my work, and I got on the floor, and I was like, "Let's play Barbies," So our children imitate us. They are learning emotional behaviors from us. And so in home, when they're comfortable and they're familiar with their surroundings, it's a place of emotional growth. It's because it's emotionally constant. In school, they're changing grades, they're changing teachers, new students are coming in and out. There's not emotional consistency. It's an educational system. So school is where scholastic education happens with emotional reinforcements. And scholastic education is in the classroom and is reinforced in the home. Emotional education happens in home, and it's only reinforced in the classroom. So if you keep that perspective, then you can understand that you really need to work with your child at home. And so sometimes parents fall into this trap of, just like with the shame thing, I don't want to feel this shame because I feel it reflects badly on me as a person, that my child misbehaves in public, and so I'm just not going to deal with it. Well, you're incredibly overwhelmed by all of the emotional intervention you have to do at home, so I'm just going to ignore that and let the school handle it. They're getting intervention at the school, that's good enough. That's not good enough, because they have to have it in both areas, and then they will really succeed. The difference in my child this year has been unbelievable. In school, now she will go up to her teachers and say, I'm feeling very anxious and I feel like I want to hit somebody, so I think I need to go calm down. Can I go calm down? Instead of her just doing it. Because one time a kid got behind her and she was mad and she turned around and she decked him. So we've come a long way from that. So, it's because I am reinforcing at home what they're reinforcing at school. So just as with, nope, I already covered that. All right, so to recap, first we help ourselves, we learn to cope, and we learn to let go of our own stresses in ways that are productive for us. We model appropriate behaviors for our children, and we let them know. One of the things that I do want to mention is that when my child is having an emotionally disruptive moment, it doesn't necessarily have to be in association with her disorder. I get mad. I am hot-headed, and I'm as hot-headed as her, but I'm an adult and can typically control it. But sometimes I get really angry and I'm about to blow up because I'm just tired of this behavior. Well, instead of that, I say, right now I'm really feeling angry and I'm upset, and if I keep talking, I'm going to say something I don't mean. So I need to go calm down somewhere and think about what I want to say, and then I'll come back and talk to you. And I'll go away. Because that shows them when mom is mad, she doesn't freak out on me. Mom realizes she's angry and walks away. So I've shown my child I am fallible. I am human. I have the same issues you have. And that makes them feel more comfortable in being able to express the same thing to you. So talking to your children about how you're feeling is also really important. I am very disappointed in this behavior. And it's okay to say things like that. I'm disappointed in you because if you are, you are. My daughter likes to sneak out of her room and steal electronics in the middle of the night and stay up the entire night and then have a really bad day at school. And so we have to lock all the electronics away, but she's smart and she's sneaky. And so we have had to change the location of hiding our electronics. We have to take every remote, every Nintendo game, every single electronic. And pretty soon, I'm pretty sure we're going to have to start taking the mouse away from the computer. And we hide them. We lock them away now because she just won't do that. So I tell her, I'm like, I'm very disappointed in this decision you've made because it is going to affect the way you are at school. And I am very upset right now about it. So I'm going to have to think about the repercussions of this, and I want to take my time and go think about it so that I don't overpunish you. Because sometimes when we're angry in the moment, we're like, you can't do this for an entire week. And then you realize you've said something very stupid because an entire week of taking away something that you know will help distract your child when you absolutely need it is something you're going to give in on. And then you seem really inconsistent. I speak from personal experience. I often have to tell my husband, I'm like, don't do that, don't say that, don't say that, don't say that, you know? And, or like, you're grounded from everything. And then I'm like, oh, good, I'm never going to get anything done. Because then my child is going to be whining and fighting me. So before you punish your kid, tell them you're frustrated, tell them you're disappointed, tell them you're going to think about it. And then do it, and then come back. So that also teaches your child, I need to step away and think about things, and then come back. They will imitate your behaviors. So, I forgot to put that in here. All right, we model appropriate emotional labeling. So we label our behaviors and we help them label theirs. When you're upset, I see this. We get them to appropriately label their own feelings, what they need to help them get back to a normal state of mind, normal for them. We put control back in their hands, and we provide consistency across learning environments. That is an incredibly stable environment for your child. Now, I stand up here and sound like I have it all together. That's not true. So I make mistakes. I fly off the handle, I overground, I yell. Sometimes I get really angry and I pop one of my kids, and then I'm like, and then I have to go back to my kid and apologize, which I'm never afraid to do. I'm always like, I shouldn't have done this. I became angry in the moment, and I should never have done this, and I'm sorry for what I did. What happened, I still don't appreciate what you did, but I didn't behave appropriately, and I'm sorry for that. My children will come to me and spontaneously apologize for things. I never have to prompt them. My daughter comes in after, I don't know what she had done. I had even forgotten. I was in my sewing room, and she comes in and she was like, Mom, I'm really sorry. And I was like, sorry for what? And she was like, for really getting on your nerves earlier. And I was like, huh? And she described the situation. I was like, oh, I had totally forgotten. Yeah, I'm sorry that I snapped at you too. Is that okay? If you can forgive me, I'll forgive you. And she's like, that's good. I'm like, all right, excellent. So my children will come and apologize to me. They realize when they've done something wrong, and they realize what they need to do. So this is helpful. Well, now you've heard about the emotional aspects of dealing with the children. And now I wasn't even timing myself.
Yeah, we're out of time.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Told you. All right, well, we'll deal with that. So yeah, I was going to talk about what the way anxiety looks like, but another time perhaps.
Yeah, you can hit that really quickly, like what it feels like for you.
Okay, yeah. When I experience anxiety for myself is I get very tense. There's a whole lot of pressure right here, especially in my chest, and I can't breathe. And I become really confused, and I can't think properly. It's like I have brain dyslexia. I'm trying to think about what I want to say, and it's not coming out. And if I'm asked even one question when I'm in this state of mind, my husband's smiling, just keep on smiling, then I lose it. I'm like, I just can't handle it. I mean, I freak out. Okay, you can't even ask me one question because my brain cannot process verbal information. So when you're dealing with your child at the height of a panic attack, you have to remember this. There isn't anything happening. And one of the things that I found across all boards when I asked people how they dealt with their anxiety and how it felt was, I feel confused. Confused. My mind is jumbled. I can't process what I'm thinking. This is the same for your kids. So dealing with the anxiety is always going to be something you want to do after the panic attack is over, and then talk about it. But another thing is I know what I want to say, and I can't get to it. It's like I see there's all this stuff in my way, and I can see what I want, and I just can't pull it out. It's like that word you're searching for, and it's so frustrating. But then that increases my anxiety because now I realize that I look like a crazy person, and I'm behaving irrationally, and there is no reason I need to be anxious, but that makes my anxiety spike even more. And sometimes when I go into a full-blown panic attack, I gotta get out, I gotta be by myself, and then I just take deep breaths. I had to focus on my breathing. That's something I've taught my kids. Just take some deep breaths, because a lot of times your breathing becomes disrupted. They hold your breath. A lot of times people in a panic attack will hold their breath. They'll clench their fists. Their heart races. You feel like you're going crazy. And you know it. And that makes it worse. So this is what it feels like for me. And the way that I get through it is when my husband sees that, he's like, okay, I'll take over this and you can go off by yourself. So when you see your child doing it, you need to give them the same respect and space you would an adult, because they need it at that point in time. Sometimes I ask my kid, do you want me here or do you want to be alone? And if they say, I want you here, I'm like, I'm here. Tell me what you need me to do. And I'll stand there and wait. I want you to hold me. I'm on it. I just want you to be in the room with me. Okay, I'm good. I need you to leave me alone. I'll be right outside. You give your kid what they need in the moment of the anxiety. And then when it's over, you come back and you
can talk about it when they're emotionally there. So that's how my anxiety feels.
Okay, next up we have Ardis Lowe, and Ardis is an LPC registered play therapist and the owner of Therapy on the Square.
I just work there.
Oh, she works at Therapy on the Square.
How does this work?
Okay, this.
All right, you can address me,
attaches right
please.
here. There you
Thank
go.
you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Actually, I can't walk, can I? Will you turn that on? I feel like a dog. I was sitting there, Ashley, is that right? Okay. I was sitting there listening to you and thinking it will sound to you guys like we spent the night together last night. But I look at that not as like oh crap, she stole my line. But wow, you have so much personal experience from your own life as being in the trenches yourself with your kids as a mom, that what I am bringing to you guys is going to complement exactly what you said. And so I hope with that I might kind of run through the PowerPoint thing kind of fast, because honest to goodness, like you'll be like, we talked about that, But that way, not in that way. I think that's beautiful, because to me it kind of shows that this is what works. This is what is really happening for ourselves, for our kiddos, when we're struggling with different disabilities, disorders. So to me, it just is like, wow, yeah, that's what it's all about. So maybe that way we could have time for question answer or see. I bet, look, I could make it. Yeah.
Can you do it?
Yeah, I could do it. Maybe I could the whole time. I'm a little bit technologically nervous. Okay, so what's, just click, all right. Just even how you started, to tell or not to tell. This week I was like, what should I call this? What should I call this? Because being a professional who parents will come, we just got this diagnosis, or we've gotten kicked out of 4 preschools. That was a call this week. We've gotten kicked out of 4 preschools. I think we might need to come see a therapist. But I often get the question, well, do I tell them or not tell them? How do I talk to my kids about this? And when I saw this cartoon, I was like, oh, that's perfect. Because it's kind of like the sex talk. Like, it's uncomfortable. We feel uncomfortable. We probably haven't had time to digest the information yet ourselves. And so sometimes we try to package it like, we don't completely tell all the birds and the bees. We kind of kid size it, give them kid gloves. They're the ones living with the difference, right? And just like you said, they know that, like I've got those 4 friends in my classroom who they're kind of this way, but I got kicked out of school 4 times. What's the common denominator? They may not be able to articulate it or completely have the grasp of what it means, but there's a recognition that something about me seems a little bit different than some of my buddies. Or lots of times they may not be buddies, but the other people in the classroom, because maybe our social skills prevent us from really having those friendships. So I'm definitely a huge advocate for, yes, please inform your kiddos. Tell them, talk to them. This is their life. And if we don't help them early on, it's not going to get any easier. We're going to have more difficulties. So talk sooner rather than later. But I'm aware whenever I say that, and I made this list to kind of show, holy smokes. And this isn't even like the school for my school diagnosticians, this isn't like the school list. So this is the psychiatrist and professional counselors diagnostic manual list of different, and these are child specific, mental health disorders that we can have. If we're in the school, we probably have a lot of autism and ED and some things that may not fall on this list, but they all are a part of this list. And the point being is, there is no way, I do this for a living, I'm not an expert on every single one of those. No, I have to educate myself, but I can't possibly know the ins and outs of every single disorder that you guys could bring to the table, right? So we have to collaborate and work together, educate ourselves, so that we can help educate our kiddos. So, all that to say, to me when I look at that list, it's overwhelming. And I put myself, or try to put myself in the shoes of a parent who's coming and saying to me, I got this list with 5 different words that I can't even pronounce on it. What in the world are we gonna do? How do I function? How do I help my kiddo function? So my question to you guys, and I expect you to talk, so you have to respond, is when you got that, if it was at school, if it was with a psychiatrist, whenever you got a diagnosis or diagnoses, what feelings were going on for you guys? Spit some words out at me.
Really sad.
Sad. Mm-hmm.
It's not ready to accept or.
Not ready, kind of this refusal. No, there's no room for that.
Yeah.
Like, that can't happen. This isn't the like Hallmark cards and the videos that we see on TV when we're pregnant.
Yeah.
That's not the picture that I saw. This can't happen. Sad. That sounds scary. Like when I hear your description, I feel fear of the unknown. Anybody else have any different or additional? I have a feeling it's not just one emotion. It's an onslaught of overwhelming emotions.
Can it possibly be like a relief that you can have a diagnosis?
Yeah, so I stuck that up there. I'm relieved because often, no, sidebar. The point, I'm glad you brought that up because oftentimes, like you guys live with your kiddos, you are the expert of your children, right? I may be a mental health expert. I'm not the expert of your kid or your kid or your kid. You guys are. You know them so well, but there's this, I think your word was, we knew something was a little bit different. Maybe I couldn't put my finger on exactly what that difference was. Something, like when I look at my friends' kids, something's different. And so we go for diagnosis, we go, and we don't often get answers until we get an answer. We get information. So I think where the relief comes from, what a lot of people have shared with me is, at least it gives me direction. If I get a diagnosis of autism, I have lots of resources available to me that I can access. I've got people I can talk to. I know where to go. It doesn't take away from the sadness, from the, no, this isn't what I expected, the fear, but it gives me some understanding that I'm not alone in this. There are other people out there. We're here together, we're not alone. So you can access other people. So it's really wordy. Basically, how do you do it is what it comes down to. You get this diagnosis and you've got your kiddo. Well, I don't have a textbook answer to give you on this because I'm aware when I look throughout all of your faces, I don't know you guys, right? I don't know how your family grew up. You told us how your family grew up was we were open. My mom had a diagnosis of depression, so it was common language, common talk. I wish so much that I could say, everyone I see has that experience, but you're a unique situation, and that makes me very sad to be able to say that and know that that's true, that usually it's we don't talk about this. And so it makes us feel pretty helpless when we don't have those tools available to us. There may be religion, culture, familial culture in itself. There's so many factors that come into play about to talk or not to talk. So I can't tell you, you must. I can recommend, please talk to your kiddos. Let them know what the diagnosis or diagnoses are. They're going to be getting services, right, at school. You talk to them openly. Give them the resources because they have to learn how to live within their own body, especially when they're at school, right? They're gone from us. I can't do that math, but like 35 hours a day, maybe. That's a long time that they're not with us and they're around other people, so we need to tool them up. Give them all those resources. What I can say is I don't know how old everyone's kiddos are that are here, but if I have a 3-year-old versus a 13-year-old versus an 18-year-old, I'm not gonna speak to them in the same manner, right? Because sometimes I'll have a teen come in to see me and she didn't get a diagnosis until later in life, right? So we didn't have the opportunity throughout life. My guess is there may have been some challenges, but maybe we just didn't get the diagnosis to get those resources and get that help. But we're gonna interact differently with our 3-year-old. It's just like, I'm gonna jump around. Where did I put it? Oh, there you go. I was like, I have a little picture for you. Just like when we're teaching them to drink out of a cup. When they're little, they have a sippy cup. So we're going to small size the information. I'm not saying don't tell them, but a 3-year-old's not going to sit there and read a diagnostic book with you and, oh, yes, those symptoms. No, keep it developmentally appropriate for the kid that you're interacting with, right? Short and sweet for our little ones, and multiple, repetition, again and again and again. Use books, use drawing or writing together, and don't make it shame-based, right? This is who you are. Celebrate who you are. Celebrate your differences that make you unique, but be open and talk about it. Because when we don't, just like you were saying, kids fill in the blanks, right? I need to change my words. Humans, people, we fill in blanks. We do not do well without having the information. Kids do it too. So if they aren't told, I've had, a kiddo that I've seen for many years. When she was little, parents were not ready to tell her what made her different and unique. She also tested, we were thinking autistic, but severe anxiety disorder is how she popped up diagnostically. Lots of encouragement, we need to have these conversations, And I can't tell you, now she's 9 years old, and she'll come in and she'll say, do you know that I have anxiety? That's why it's scary to talk to people. Huh. And she literally, it's like a mic drop, like, holy smokes. It blew her mind to have a word. I'm not weird. I'm not broken. I have anxiety. Anxiety doesn't rule me. I don't like to say, she's a diabetic. She's a depressive. No. She's a little girl who lives with anxiety. That's a part of her. But the relief, it's just so darn cute. She says it on a regular basis. But it's so relieving for her to have that. And she now will go back to preschool and give me examples. She'll like to she'll use her hair as a very protective shield when I need to get away from people. And she'll cover herself up with her hair. And she'll now talk about, in preschool, I used to put my hair over my face and hide in the corner and cry. I didn't get it. I didn't know it's because it was scary to be around them and they were loud. And that was too much, but I do not have the ability to ask them to not be loud because I'm confused, I'm overwhelmed, I just want to escape. But it's not okay to leave the classroom. And so it's mixed messages. But the relief that we have when we have a beginning of an understanding as to what's going on for us is beautiful. Okay, lots of words. So it's on you have this. What this all comes down to is having that conversation, right, with our kiddos, however old they are, however big, however little. We want to cover the basics. I think it's so important, just as Ashley said, be upfront, reassure them. Mental illness, if I had diabetes, I would take insulin to manage my diabetic symptoms, right? I have a mental health illness. There are things I can do to manage my mental health. Wow, that's so comforting, right? It might be a medication route, it might be coping skills, it might be therapy. Combination of all of the above are usually a great route to go for a lot of people, but there are ways to help yourself. You're not out on your own. Goodbye, thank you guys for being here. Yeah, bye-bye. Okay, oftentimes kids will ask me if they can catch it, can I catch something that someone else has? So maybe a kiddo who isn't suffering from this disorder. Can I get that? Last week everyone was gone with strep and it was catchable. So be real, honest, answer the questions. Invite the questions from the kiddos and address them. And if you don't know the answer, own it. I don't know that. That sounds like something you're really wanting to know about. And it's important that I give you the right information. So I'm going to look into that and I'll get back to you. I think sometimes as parents we feel like we have to know everything. We have to know it. They're asking us now. Oh, I've got to deliver that right now. It's okay to not know, but please invite the questions. So we're having an open dialogue within our families about everything that makes us unique and everything that brings us together. So be open. Security. I heard a lot of security provided in this home over here. None of us do it perfectly, right? I'm a mom, I have 2 kids, and it gets really hairy and ugly sometimes. And I do this for a living. Other times, I'm like, oh, that was a really good one. Gotta remember that, because we can hyper-focus on the hairy nights sometimes, right? But the underlying theme that I hear for you guys over here is that sense of security that you're providing your kiddos. That, you know what, we're there for them throughout it all, no matter what. Whenever they need more of us, we go to them. When they say, give me space, we back away. That provides so much emotional stability for our kiddos. So keep doing that. So when you go home, Google, what about Raymond? You know that old TV show? What about Raymond active listening? Ashley gave us some great examples. So when we listen to anyone, to our kids, to our spouse, when we're engaging in conversation with someone, not to be a passive listener, not to be, on our phone. If they're coming to us and they need us, I'm going to repeat what you're saying. You feel sad. And I'm not going to fix it for them. That can be the hardest part. Like, I don't want to immediately jump to, okay, let's do something really fun now, because that's kind of giving a message that it's not okay to feel sad. So sit with them in that anger, in that sadness. We don't want it to get to the level where we're hurting ourselves or hurting somebody else, right? But I don't want to just shut it off as immediately and give this message that some feelings are not okay to have. We're human. We have a wide variety of emotions. So that active listening is someone is really angry and you're simply going to, you feel really angry. And I'm not going to be like, oh, you feel so angry, because I don't get you. Obviously, you do not understand how I'm feeling right now. So match their emotional tone and help them. If we have a kiddo who maybe non-verbally, they're not expressing the tone that matches, do that through your own. So we're mirroring. Like, those mirror neurons in the brain are what we're really trying to activate right there. They're learning from us. We all learn from each other in our engagement. So we want to help their emotional intelligence. And the more active listening we do, where we flood it with emotional words. Your daughter's emotional words are quite incredible. Despondent. I was like, wow. She was like, I got to take that to work, that she said despondent. That's incredible. But that shows me, because what I was thinking when I was listening to you talk was like, that is a household that talks feelings. For a 8-year-old to be able to say, I feel despondent. Wow, that is a heavy feeling, right? A lot of our kids don't have that kind of vocabulary, so we're going to show you how off I feel, how despondent, how angry, how not understood I feel. So by us reflecting what we're seeing in them non-verbally, you feel really overwhelmed, you feel sad. Oh, you're so happy. I use it all over the place. I feel like I'm kind of focusing, I realize, on like the mad, sad, but use it for the happy stuff too, right? Like when the kiddos wake up in the morning and you see them, maybe they skip out to breakfast. Man, you are feeling happy today. You recognize all those emotions, because we really just want to give them that vocabulary. All right. Speaking practically. That sounds very serious for me. Speaking practically. All right. Expectations of your child. So be real, right? If you guys know your kiddos, and I can say I've done it. I'm guessing you guys have probably done it too, where you might look back when your kids were little and think, gosh, how was I expecting them to do X, Y, or Z? They were so little. So match your expectations to your kid's size, to what their abilities are. Don't expect them to do something that's outside of their range of ability, because that is going to lead to ultimate frustration. Encouragement versus praise. There's all kinds of research. And the ADD in me is coming out. Then I'm like, I want to play with that. Okay. Focus. Okay. So much research behind encouragement and praise that could be like a 3-5 hour conversation in and of itself. But to give a very nuts and bolts example, and I love our school district, so I don't want to sound that I'm speaking bad of our academic community, but in our American academic community, we're very praise-based. Good job, give them a sticker, give them a stamp. What we're kind of teaching in that is, I'm doing it for you. I want you to give me that. I want you to recognize me. I want you to see me. So then I roll forward to being an adolescent. I want him to notice me. I need him to see me. right? That's not the direction we want to go for our kids. We want to encourage them. So you're right in front of me, so I keep looking at you. We're pretending you're coloring a picture. Naturally, what we often do is like, oh, what a pretty picture. So it's a simple semantic shift. Man, you've put a lot of colors into that. I see so many details that you've added to that. So I'm talking about the work she's doing rather than the outcome or the product. So trying to do this throughout the day, throughout just switching your language, catching yourself in the good jobs. And I do it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm not supposed to praise. It's easier said than done because we were all raised with praise, and so we kind of want it. Like, please tell me something good about myself. I want our kids to have that motivation from an internal drive, so we want to help them focus on what they're investing. Oh, you worked really hard putting your shoes on. And give them that praise or encouragement, I should use the right word, all over the place. Okay. Letting them do things on his or her own, right? We've got people all over the world that have all different kinds of abilities and disabilities. Let them do what they can do. Don't do for our child what he or she can do for himself, right? Because we're kind of giving a message that I don't think you're capable. And I want all these guys to know how capable they are. I'm also realistic that sometimes we have to get out the door in 2 minutes and I kind of need to put your shoes on for you. So I don't want to act like, we don't always have the time. So in the best case, more often than not, give them lots of opportunity to do for themselves, to make choices. Choice giving is huge, huge, huge for aggression and anxiety management. Choices all over the place. And I use the language. It gets very choicey. You can choose Raisin Bran or you can choose Cheerios. You can choose to wear your blue shirt or you can choose to wear your green shirt. And what I'm trying to teach in all of these choices is that you have a choice. You are the one in control of yourself. So then whenever we need to use it later, you can choose to go to the calming corner or you can choose to go to the trampoline and have some physical outlet. Which do you choose? And sometimes we get to the point, where the choices are not satisfactory to the kiddo. So then if you don't make a choice, then you choose for me to make the choice for you. But letting them know that it's up to them. I'm not just coming in and telling them what to do. Passing on your fears. This is a big one with anxiety is we all have our own anxieties. I know somebody in here who's a good friend of mine who's afraid of spiders. Doesn't mean her kids have to be afraid of spiders, right? But if everywhere we go, we're like, get away. Guys, come here. Those things are really, really scary. Don't let them. Well, what are we teaching? Yeah, be terrified of whatever's down there. So teach them through modeling. This is a true fear, right? I'm afraid of them. But I can go through logically of, that I am safe. I'm much bigger than them. So giving your kids the opportunities. Don't let our anxieties, our fears become theirs. So do our best to manage our own anxiety, fears, whatever it is that's coming across our own plates. And being unified amongst caregivers. Be on the same page as if there's another big person that lives in your house with you, I don't want one to be doing this and one to be doing that, and then the kids are like, this is so confusing. I don't understand. So collaborate, work together if you have another adult in the house so that you interact with your kiddos in the same way. Otherwise, it's incredibly confusing for them. I know I'm talking fast. Okay, that's actually the end. That was fast. I sped. Okay. I like this cartoon. I've shared this with kiddos of different ages, and when they read it, they say, yes. So what I see in this is that the mom is not really understanding the kid's perspective. So how I might shift that is if I walked in, yesterday my kid was bouncing around, happy as all get out, and then today, that's how she is. That's a great time for reflective listening. Oh, gosh. You're feeling really sad. I mean, you don't even have the energy to get up right now. That is really a tough way to feel. Rather than what the heck, yesterday you were fine. Put your shoes on and go to school. No, we're just pushing them further away. So be real with their experience and give them, I gave, I think on that table somewhere, some different strategies on coping skills. I'm not going to speak through all of them because there's a lot, and Ashley did an absolutely incredible job of sharing those. So there's a lot that supplement that are going to feel very familiar to you guys, and maybe some different ones as well. There are 2 apps that I put on the sheet from, I was like, you guys have the bag over there. There's a really cool school in Dallas that is all very mindfully based, and they teach kids about brain health and how to settle their glitter, whenever they're dysregulated, right? So when we are dysregulated, we can't think. Our brain, the part of our brain that we need for rational thinking, goes off on its own little train, and it's not available. So the time to teach coping skills is not in the middle of any emotional outburst. It's all the other time. We're practicing, we're talking about it all over the place. We want it to be familiar. It's kind of like an airplane, a pilot. They practice crash landing all the time. How often do they use it? Hopefully not too often. But they're practicing and rehearsing. So when the time comes that I get into a scary, chaotic situation, it's been integrated, it's been learned, so it's easy to access, as opposed to, oh, wait, what was that? What was that thing? I'm supposed to breathe? What am I? No. So like we've practiced it enough that it's second nature to us. So talk about the coping skills all the times that all the other times. So then whenever it comes time to apply them, they're easier for us to grab on to. Okay. Questions? Thoughts? Concerns? Anything? You guys are a very lively bunch. All right. All right. Thank you guys very much. Yeah.